There is a quiet crisis happening inside growing organizations. Leaders are exhausted, not because they are not capable, not because they are not committed, but because they have become the system. Every decision flows through them. Every problem escalates to them. Every delay somehow becomes their responsibility. And on the surface, it looks like leadership, but in reality, it's a bottleneck. In reality, it's a bottleneck. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix execution without burning out your leaders, and why most organizations are accidentally designing systems that require burnout to function. Yes, why most organizations are accidentally designing systems that require burnout to function. By the end of this video, you'll understand, number one, why leaders become the center of execution without realizing it. Number two, the hidden cost of being hands-on. Number three, how to build a system where execution runs even when leaders step back. I'll break this down using an unexpected example. Batman. Yes, you heard me right. Batman. Now, let me describe a pattern you might recognize. Execution starts slipping. Deadlines are missed. Quality drops. Things fall through the cracks. So what does the leader do? What does the leader do? They step in. They step in to clarify priorities. They step in to follow up more often on things. They make more decisions directly. They stay closer to the work. And it works temporarily. Execution improves, but something else happens quietly in the background. Dependency increases. Now, the team waits for the leader. The decision starts slowing down without him. Ownership becomes fuzzy. And before long, the leader just isn't leading execution. They are carrying it. They are not just leading execution, but they are actually carrying it. This is what I call the leadership trap. The more you compensate for misalignment, the more your organization depends on you to function. The more you compensate for misalignment, the more your organization depends on you to function. Think about Batman. Gotham depends on him. Every crisis, Batman. Every villain, Batman. Every solution, Batman. And while that sounds heroic, it is not scalable. It is not, because the entire system depends on one person showing up every time. Now imagine if Gotham had 1. Aligned institutions, 2. Clear decision structures, 3. Coordinated response systems. Batman wouldn't need to carry everything alone. He could focus on what only he can do. That's the shift most leaders need to make. From being the hero to building the system. Yes. Leaders need to make that shift from being the hero to building the system. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Leaders don't burn out because there's too much work. No. They don't burn out because there's too much work. They burn out because they are doing work the system should be doing. That is the reason they burn out. Let me break that down. When alignment is weak, leaders become responsible for one, clarifying priorities repeatedly. Two, resolving conflicts between teams. Three, making decisions others should be able to make. Four, following up to ensure things get done. In other words, they become the integration point of the organization. And while that might feel necessary, it's actually a design flaw. Because no matter how capable a leader is, they cannot scale themselves indefinitely. They cannot do it. At some point, the organization hits a ceiling. Not because of market conditions, not because of strategy, but because execution depends on one exhausted human being. Imagine your entire organization depending on one exhausted human being. I worked with a CEO who was involved in every decision. He was smart, capable, committed, but constantly overwhelmed. He told me one day, if I don't step in, things fall apart. And he was right. But here is what we discovered. It wasn't that the team couldn't execute. It wasn't that the team could not execute. It's that they didn't share the same decision framework. So every time a situation required judgment, it escalated to him. Yes, they escalated to him. Not because they were incapable, but because the system hadn't equipped them to think the same way. The system hadn't equipped them to think the same way. At the core of leadership, burnout is something most people don't talk about. Cognitive overload. People don't talk about cognitive overload. Not just doing too much, but having to think for everyone. Interpreting priorities, weighing trade-offs, resolving ambiguity, making judgment calls over and over again. Here is the key insight. Execution doesn't break because people are not working. No. It breaks because people aren't thinking in alignment. Yes, it breaks because people are not thinking in alignment. So leaders step in to bridge the gap. But the more they do, the less the team develops that capability. And the cycle continues. The cycle continues. So how do you fix execution without becoming the bottleneck? How do you fix execution without becoming the bottleneck? Without burning out? Without constantly stepping in? How do you do that? How do you fix the execution? The solution is simple. Very simple indeed, but not easy. Yeah, the solution is simple, but not easy. You stop scaling leadership effort. Stop scaling leadership effort and instead start scaling alignment. This is where my organizational cognitive alignment model comes in, and it focuses on three critical shifts. Three critical shifts. Number one, From decision control to decision clarity. Most leaders think they need to make more decisions. They don't. What they actually need is to make fewer decisions more clearly. That means defining how decisions should be made, clarifying what matters most, making trade-offs explicit so others can make aligned decisions without escalation. Because if every decision comes back to you, execution will always stall. Yes, if every decision has to come back to you, then execution will definitely always stall. Number 2, from constant oversight to shared understanding. Oversight feels productive, but it doesn't scale. What scales is shared understanding. When people understand the why behind the priorities, the context behind decisions, the logic behind trade-offs, they don't need constant supervision. They can move independently without drifting off course. Yes, they can move independently without drifting off course. Number 3, from reactive accountability to structured ownership. Most accountability systems are reactive. Why wasn't this done? Who dropped the ball? But sustainable execution requires proactive clarity. Who wants this outcome? Where do decisions sit? Where do decisions sit? What does success look like? When ownership is clear, leaders don't have to chase execution. Execution moves on its own. Yes, when ownership is clear, leaders don't have to chase execution because execution moves on its own. When organizations apply this shift, something interesting happens. Leaders start to feel lighter. Not because there is less work, no, but because the right work is being done at the right level. Yes, you heard me. The right work is being done at the right level. So decisions move faster without escalation. Teams coordinate better without constant intervention. Execution becomes consistent without pressure. And leaders regain the space to 1, think strategically. 2, focus on growth. 3, lead instead of firefight. Yes, think strategically, focus on growth, and lead instead of firefight. Going back to Batman, the goal is not to remove him. No, the goal is not to remove Batman. The goal is to stop needing him for everything. Because the strongest systems are not built on heroics. They are built on alignment. The strongest systems are not built on heroics. They are built on alignment. If you're a leader feeling stretched, constantly pulled into decisions, always following up, always keeping things on track, don't ask, how do I work harder? Ask, what is my system missing that requires me to work this hard? Because sustainable execution doesn't come from better leaders. It comes from alignment. Yes, Sustainable execution doesn't come from better leaders. It comes from better alignment. Here is what I want you to do next. Look at your last week. Where did you step in to clarify priorities, to resolve confusion, to make a decision someone else could have made? That is not just work. That is a signal of misalignment. And if you want to learn how to fix that systematically using my organizational cognitive alignment model, subscribe to the channel, because in the next video, I'll show you how to identify the exact points where execution is breaking and how to fix them without adding more pressure. So subscribe to the channel, because in the next video, I'll show you how to identify the exact points where execution is breaking and how to fix them without adding more pressure.